He is arguably the greatest baseball player of all time, a man who revolutionized the sport and won over the hearts of millions. But what about his daughters? Do you know how many daughters did Babe Ruth have? 2. And yet most people don't know much about them. They're living shadows of their father's fame, each leading a completely different life. So today we'll meet them. Number 1. Dorothy's hidden birth. Babe Ruth's eldest daughter, Dorothy, was the product of an affair. Her biological mother was one of Babe's co-workers from the show, a woman he had a relationship with for several years before meeting his wife. When Dorothy was born, he didn't even know it. His wife Claire took the baby in without asking any questions and raised her as her own. For the first 5 years of her life, Dorothy lived in a mansion in Manhattan, seemingly happy and well taken care of. However, she had no idea that her aunt was actually her mother. And the truth would come out when she was just 5 years old, turning her life upside down and leaving her with deep psychological scars. Number 2. Two different worlds. The story of how Babe Ruth's 2 daughters grew up in such different worlds is nothing short of incredible. On one hand, we have Julia, Claire's daughter, and Babe's legal adopted daughter, who grew up in luxury, traveling the world with her father and being doted on by both parents. He called her his little girl and she was his shadow. On the other hand, there was Dorothy, who was sent away to boarding schools and lived a lonely life, moving from one cold and uncaring adult to the next. After her mother died in a freak fire, her father married one of his co-workers, which only made Dorothy feel more unwanted and unloved. Number 3. Dorothy's struggles as an adult. As a teenager, Dorothy began acting out, rebelling against her parents' rules, and eventually dropping out of high school. At 17, she got married, hoping to find happiness in a traditional family setting. But within 4 years, she was divorced and back living with her parents. She married again, this time to a man nearly 10 years her senior, but that marriage ended in divorce too. Throughout her life, she remained distant from her father, though they did reconcile in his final years. Babe even attended her second wedding. However, the relationship was never the same, and Dorothy died in 1990 at the age of 68, without fully understanding her place in her father's life. Number 4. Julia's steady journey. Unlike her sister, Julia's life was much more steady and straightforward. After graduating from high school, she went on to college, where she studied physical education, which she loved. After getting her degree, she moved to Long Island and built a modest life for herself, running a farm and store with her husband. Even so, she never shied away from her connection to her father and his legacy. In fact, she threw the ceremonial pitch at Yankee Stadium at the age of 91, which was a huge honor. Julia also wrote several books about her father and helped organize events and youth leagues in his name. She passed away in 2006 at the age of 102, still smiling and waving as the ambassador of her father's memory. Number 5. Dorothy's secret. Nearly 60 years after her birth, Dorothy discovered that the woman she thought was her aunt was actually her biological mother. This revelation came as a shock, but it also brought up a lot of painful emotions for Dorothy, who had spent her whole life believing the family's lies. Despite the hurt and anger she felt towards her mother for giving her up and towards her father for not telling her the truth, she eventually found peace and healing. She did this by writing her memoir, which was published in 2004, and by speaking out on behalf of her father, who had passed away in 1948. Through her work, she was able to connect with other people who had experienced similar situations and found strength and support in their stories. Babe Ruth may be remembered as a legendary ball player, but his story isn't all sunshine and home runs. He was a complex man who made complicated decisions that affected not only himself, but also his family. His 2 daughters, Julia and Dorothy, offer a fascinating look into the life of the man behind the myth. One was born into privilege, and the other into secrecy. One embraced the spotlight, while the other sought the truth. They are living shadows and light of the Babe Ruth story, reminding us that even legends can have complicated family lives. Their story is a reminder that everyone's story is worth telling, and that even those in the public eye are still human. So what do you think? Would you rather be the child of a legend or carve your own path in life? Share your thoughts below.